All right, I think we are live. Hopefully. Can you boys hear me? This is the microphone that works with YouTube for some reason. When I go directly, I don't know why. But boys in the chat, can you hear me, Arthur Powell? I reset my router, so the guy's coming Thursday. I think I'm just gonna get a new router. Um, it was a bit, yeah. Thank you, Arthur Powell. It was a bit spotty yesterday, but what am I doing here? Moving the light. I'm going to need the light to read. So, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We have a very, very exciting week coming up. Mucho content. Mucho content. I don't think it's live. I'm going to be recording this Monday with Thaddeus Russell. And we're going to talk about Michel Foucault. Now, I'm not going to sell the Foucault to the right. I'm just saying that I'm going to discuss various Foucauldian concepts. It's going to be amazing. Now, Content Minded is going to be an early release date of Tuesday. Sorry. Okay. So I'm going live with Thaddeus Russell, but tomorrow is the first installment outside of my WordPress blog in video format. Monday Modern Art Madness. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to cover a George Gross painting, and also I'm going to have extras on Patreon. So patreon.com/Giant Art Productions. You're going to get an extra Modern Art Madness video that will come out either later or around the same time. But this is, of course, I've been busy editing. As for Content Minded, I'm going to have to push Content Minded. Unfortunately, this week will be on Odyssey, but I will put a promo video up because what I'm doing is I'm going to have an insider that I know. And he's doxed himself to me, and he's 100% legit. He is a media insider in Russia, and we are going to talk about the current conflict in the blue and yellow country. And that's going to be really exciting, but I have to push it to Thursday. You will get the full stream on Patreon, but you will get the first hour and a half like for free. And we cover the current blue and yellow situation. He goes into Yuri Bezmenov because believe it or not, this guy, he's got a very similar story to Yuri Bezmenov. And I'm going to have to push it to Thursday because apparently Wednesday, there's a very popular stream on Follow the Rules with some kind of sussy stuff, but I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to pollute my soul with that. I know my former protege probably put the stream on Wednesday just to dick with Content Minded, but it's okay. It's fine. I contemplated Subscribestar, but the thing is, I'll wait till Patreon, I think that I can keep my nose clean on Patreon. I don't think my content is like super massive controversial. Well, about the Russian propaganda, I'm consciously aware of the fact that he is okay. So this guy, he doesn't like the current administration in Russia, but I try to give a voice to that perspective, and I try to be as fair as possible. We address the question of Western dissidents and their position relative to Russia and the current conflict. But anyways, so Content Minded is going to be Thursday on Odyssey. I will put up a promo video. The whole thing will be on Patreon. At least have both. Yeah, but I can't split my audience. I mean, we'll see what happens. And also, I'm going to work on two things. I have a busy week. So this Wednesday, instead of Content Minded, Content Minded is going to be on Thursday. On Wednesday, for the first time, I'm going to be, hopefully for many times, I'm going to be on the cigar stream. Academic Agent has personally invited me onto the cigar stream. So Monday is Modern Art Madness. Thursday, only this Thursday will be content minded, but Wednesday I'm going to be on Academic Agents cigar stream. Very excited for that. I think Charlemagne is coming with me. It's going to be great. So I have a very busy week ahead of me. Instead of talking about some weird groomer cult with crypto, never mind. Don't pay attention to what my former Follow the Rules podcast is doing. But yes, I'm finally going to be on AA. I know people have floated my name to him for a long time. It's going to be great. So shout out to Charlemagne. Shout out to John D. Shout out to, of course, my good man Prudentialist. And also, by the way, me and Prudentialist are in talks to do a regular show together. Maybe not every week, but maybe every 2 weeks or so, about arts and culture, mostly about culture instead of just politics. Me and Prudentialist, I have a 3-hour episode of Content Minded with the Prudentialist. And when I upload that in a few weeks, then we're going to discuss doing a regular live stream together. Next week, though, so this week is the Russian episode. Next week will be none other, and he's promised that he's doing a promo video, is going to be Nuke Telly. That's not this week coming up, but the next week, I mean in June. Nuke Telly, 3 hours, all of it on Patreon, but the first hour and a half on YouTube. I have to heavily censor it, of course, because Nuke, he's not very used to OPSEC language. So that's going to be great. I have a bunch of interviews planned. I have a bunch of people who've promised to come on. And for people who don't know, people who have seen the recent Twitter ownage of me, I have the last laugh. Now, sometimes you get to take your lumps. Because here's the thing. I had this thing, I would snipe at Nemitz, for instance. And Nemitz, he really that tweet about the sugar cookies and, recently. But I have the last laugh because here's an exciting content announcement. I haven't recorded it yet. I'm aiming for next week to record it, and it will be out in maybe in June. I have secured the Nemitz interview. I want to talk to him about the new right. I want to talk to him about American destiny in terms of genetics, in terms of his vision of America. I have secured the Nemitz interview. Nemitz is coming on Content Minded. Also, Nightmare Vision has also promised to record with me next week. And in June, I'm going to have Nina Power. And me and Default Friend are doing a very exciting episode about femcells that we're planning. So it's going to be amazing. Content out the wazoo. But also, now I'm going to say this live on air. There is a tweet that I posted. And if someone knows Logo, please tell Logo to unblock me so I could shake his hand. Logo 2 years ago said that I should do my own interviews on my own and that Lev does not respect me. Someone posted that in my Telegram and I tweeted out, Logo was 100% right. I got nothing against Logo. I mean, apart from his, cringe takes once in a while. But no, compared to his best friend, I never had anything against Logo. I want Logo on Content Minded. I think we can have a banger episode. So if someone knows Logo, please DM him to say I'm sorry and that I unblocked him, and please unblock me. He was 100% right. I'm way better. I've gotten more reception doing my own thing on my channel with less subscribers. But please subscribe, because my goal, by the time it's my 30th birthday in December, my goal is to have at least approaching the number of subscribers of about 6,000 to 10,000. That would be great. My life would be complete. And I'm also looking, so I have a number of things in the works. I'm super busy. Tomorrow, again, watch out, Monday Modern Art Madness. It's going to be a George Gross painting from the German Expressionists, one of my favorite paintings I'm going to talk about. People for years have requested, like, Gio, keep up the Modern Art Madness series. Do something on YouTube. You have a great voice. Just do it like super asthma and calm. So it's going to be amazing. So we are reading Byung-Chul Han's Hyperculture. I'm going to read some excerpts from it. So, the lighting situations, so. I just wanted to stream on Sunday because I promised people that I was going to stream this today. But I know that you'll exceed your great expectations. Wishing you power. Thank you, Nollis. Nollis, I want Nollis eventually to come on Content Minded to talk about poetry, to talk about the unique situation of Hungary and Hungarian civilization. So Nollis and Donald Kemp, eventually I want to get them on Content Minded. I have a ton of great guests, though. I'm super busy. I just recorded an episode with Matt Forney and Terror House. We talk about alternative publishing. We talk about literature. We talk about his history in the E-Right. We go through his whole backstory. It's going to be great. Almost 3-hour interview with Terror House Press, Matt Forney. It's going to be amazing. Yes, I'm going to get Nollis on about poetry, and we'll have to discuss it, Nollis. So Byung-Chul Han's Hyperculture is one of his more easy reading books. He talks about the nature of globalization in terms of what so take the concept of hypermodernity, or what Zygmunt Bauman called liquid modernity, and apply it to culture as a whole. So Byung-Chul Han and a few other people. There's another Chinese philosopher that my good friend Schopenhauer Zoomer Marcus. My good friend Marcus turned me on to this other philosopher. What's his name? Let me look it up here. There's a great philosopher that I'm reading a bunch of his essays from, Fluxus. Is it? Oh, yes. His book Cosmotechnics. Yukhui. I'm going to get his book Cosmotechnics. It's along the similar lines as Byung-Chul Han, but these were really the first people that really tried to write about what culture is transforming into in hyperreality. So he talks about globalization, he talks about mass marketization of life, and he has a number of essays. Let me read you. So maybe if you will, which essay you want me to read first. They're really short, though. So there is Culture as Home, Hypertext, Hyperculture, the Eros of Interconnectedness. That's actually a long one. Hybrid culture, the hyphenization culture, deorization. Deorization, I think, is a good place to start. But let me read to you the Eros of Interconnectedness. That's a good one. This is page 11 to 15. Where is it? Oh my God. Here it is. So Byung-Chul Han talks about, so in the posthumously published fragments, Die Zeitbedenken, Thinking of Time, Wilhelm Flusser reflects on the temporality that characterizes the information society. He distinguishes between 3 forms of time: the time of the image, the time of the book, and the time of the bit, information bit. In geometrical terms, plant-like time, linear time, and point-like time, the time of the image belongs to mythic time. Remember, in the internet age, the image takes on a dialectical and a mythical status. The image is what moves ideology. It's what moves globalization. The image transferred throughout the world moves whole society. It becomes mythic. We live in the age of the image. So the image time is mythic time because images are eternal. Well, in a sense. Mythic time is the perceptuous order which everything has fixed place on. If something moves away from its place, it is put back. The time of the book belongs to historical time. Historical time is the linearity of history. It is stream flowing from the past into the future. All events point towards the either progress or decay. Today's time, by contrast, possesses neither a mythic nor a historical horizon. We live in the age that lacks mythos, but mythos comes out the back door. But we lack historical horizon. We no longer have a historical consciousness. That is a very important point that Byung-Chul Han is getting at. It lacks any comprehensive horizon of meaning. It is de-theologized, de-teleologized into an atom-like universe of bits, a mosaic universe in which possibilities buzz like points or sprinkle like grains as discrete sensations. So we talk about the 1990s, the sort of post-Cold War era of the mosaic society. But truly think about that for a moment. If the world is no longer captured into two massive I flicked the light there. Two massive grand narratives, then hello, you are just sinking and swimming and getting bobbed about in a void of other narratives, of other affects, of other self-enclosed identity matrices throughout the world. Now everybody gets a voice. Everything is bits of information. No longer is there a grand and totalizing flow or channel of everyone's own mythical stories, of everyone's own life goals and stories, of everyone's own information and sort of what Husserl called the horizon of being. Your own horizon, your own sort of limits to being, that is the sort of fencing in of your own being, is no longer being guided by a meta-narrative. But truly think about that for a moment. If we live in a mosaic society, it is chaos. Really, truly. Quote, these possibilities advance towards me. They are the future. Whereas I happen to look, there is the future. Put differently, the void that I am not passive. But like a vortex, it sucks in all the possibilities that surround it. In this universe of points, there are no images, no books to limit the possibilities. Rather, Dasein is surrounded by freely hovering possibilities. That was the promise, that being was not going to be limited by anything in hypermodernity. That possibility, potentiality, that is what greets the subject. That is what confronts being towards death, or being with in the world, is Dasein. So, but where do we see this endless possibility now? Where? Is it here? Think about it. Rather, Dasein is rounded by freely hovering possibilities. In this way, the universe of points promises greater freedom. After all, the future is everywhere that I turn to. The possibilities increase, Flusser continues, if I include others in my own time. That is, if I acknowledge and love the other. I am not alone in the world. There are also others in it. By putting my own future at the disposal of others, I have the other's future at my disposal. This was the final Kantian dream of perpetual peace. We shall give each other the moral law on a global scale. The mosaic society would promise total equilibrium among peoples, and that everyone's possibilities will be realized in the future. But has that happened? Byung-Chul Chan is not sure. Sorry, Byung-Chul Han. I keep getting that screwed up. I'm terrible. Perhaps Flusser also understood interconnectedness as a practice of love and acknowledgement, for interconnectedness expands the future by creating a hyperspace of possibilities. The fundamental traits of Dasein that inhabits this hypercultural universe would not be fear in isolation, but eros and interconnectedness. Now, if those of you who remember, I was just a young kid at the time, but I remember that you sort of have the like 90s liberal, like globalization is good. Well, I mean, there was the anti-globalization movement, but people truly thought that we were gonna, sing hands and sing "We Are the World" and hold hands. And that I remember even up until the 2000s, there was this pervasive sense of harmony in the world. I mean, unless you lived in Eastern Europe, unless you lived in the Congo, unless you lived in the Middle East, there was a sense that in the Western world, all distinctions and differences had been neutralized. And that I remember like there was still some lingering hippie ideal of like, we are the world. I'm a global citizen. Remember the leftoids? They started saying this, I'm a global citizen. And nationalist thinking was put on hold in the 1990s for a number of reasons. Because of the death of the militia movement, because of the Twin Towers going down, because of a number of reasons, nationalism didn't really experience a renaissance until it was on the cusp of total defeat during the Obama years. But during the 1990s and during the early 2000s, up until the 2000s and mid 2000s, you still had this sort of celebration of the liberal world order. It truly was the eros, the eroticism and exoticism of the other. Look at new age music. Look at world beat. Look at lounge music at the time in the 90s. Look at intelligent drum and bass embracing world. Even metal embraced world music. Soulfly, Cynic, bands like that, bands like Pestilence. Even metal was embracing world music at the time. Go after the stream, listen to the Soulfly album Prophecy. I'm gonna do a review of that album actually. I was thinking about it. But this was a time of great eros towards the other. Now multiculturalism was seen as this flowery thing. This was before the migrant crisis. What Byung-Chul was getting at is this idealized picture was a product of this 90s opulence in the West. This for a brief time until the true implications of globalization and multiculturalism took hold. We loved and we longed for the cultural other. We listened to world music and hippie, 90s digital hippie cafes and internet cafes. We emailed people on forums in Jakarta. You know that one scene in Dilbert, the animated series, not the comic, where they're like the Millennium Parties? Do you guys remember the Millennium Parties? Where it's like, am I going to go to Jakarta? Am I going to go to Tokyo? Am I going to go to Tokyo? Am I going to go to Milan? Am I going to go to, Kathmandu? Am I going to go to Nairobi for the Millennium Party? People would send each other fake invitations, and some of them actually went, to random people throughout the world that they met on the internet. Look it up, the Millennium Parties. And it was also in the Dilbert series. That was what Byung-Chul means by the eroticization, the eros of interconnectedness. And you see the Silicon Valley Californian ideology is also this. It is the eros of interconnectedness. It is the love. Yes, the movie The Beach was like that. The movie The Beach was the perfect for that, because it shows the romanticization of the other in this exotic tropical paradise, but that paradise wasn't long for the world. The beach preempted the tragedy of encountering the other. When the whole project fell to pieces. I love that movie, The Beach. That is when, the scene where DiCaprio, he like pretends he's in a video game. That preempts hyperreality. So in this stream, you just got a review of The Beach. There you go. True story, perpetual Y2K cultural time trap. Yes, that was the Maya chart, by the way. People don't realize to remember that. I agree. I would live in perpetual Y2K cultural time trap because I love that idea as well. I remember the year 2000. I remember that New Year's. Especially in Canada, people thought Canada was the model. That was when the Canada model truly started. Oh my God. Dope of The Beach showed what Gio was saying. The beach was dope. Yeah, it was very dope. I like the beach. That was when Tilda Swinton was sort of semi all right attractiveness. The increasing interconnectedness of the world, which is driven by eros or by some altogether different human inclination, creates an abundance, even an overabundance of relations and possibilities. What is the internet? What is the internet? This the saturated space of possibilities, the hyperspace of possibilities, options, the hyperspace of possible options exceeds the facticity which would otherwise limit the projection, the freedom of choice, to speak with Heidegger, to the possibility it is inherited. So notice the dialectic here. Heidegger, in the question concerning technology, says that technology is the final revealing of being, but the digitalization of life, technics itself, reveals this overabundance of possibilities that Das Ein was never meant to have. So Das Ein is exploded by info and possibility overload. That is crazy. So Byung-Chul is saying that Heidegger preempts this confusion. Why is it that we long for the other? What human compulsion is there for Das Ein to feel an intense eroticization, an exoticism for the other? When we know that hyperconnectivity, in a way, ossifies the human subject, because through this infinity of possibilities, we cannot act. Das Ein is at a crossroads, an infinite, fractal, constantly changing rhizomatic crossroads, because we cannot actualize these possibilities because there is just chaos. Possibilities literally grind the subject down into indecision. Yet we, for a brief cultural moment, loved and like exoticized the other, and we wanted to experience other culture and so forth. Okay, the resoluteness in which Das Ein comes back to itself discloses current factual possibilities of authentic existence and discloses them in terms of the heritage which that resoluteness as thrown takes over. Sorry, let me read that again. Discloses the current factual possibilities of authentic existence and discloses them in terms of the heritage which that resoluteness as thrown takes over. Thrownness is surely not one of the traits of today's human existence. Contemporary existence corresponds rather to being projected. So remember, it is not what Heidegger says where you are thrown into the world, rather you project yourself as a simulation onto the greater world through the internet, through hyperculture. Heidegger could not account for that doubling of being. You are not merely thrown into the sort of facticity of your life, all of those facts that surround you, but rather you project onto the world your own self, or an image of yourself that is, well, separated from your quote-unquote true self. So contemporary existence corresponds rather to being projected. The excess of possibilities enables a projection of Das Ein beyond the horizon of inheritance and tradition. Now that we have hyperconnectivity, we can easily slip out of the context of our own traditions, of our own past, of everything. Hello, Pill Eater. Good morning and Holy Sunday. The excess of possibilities enables a projection of Das Ein beyond the horizon. Excess, therefore, is defactized effect. Excess, therefore, has a defactizing effect, which leads to an increase of freedom. Das Ein is defactized into a homo liber, a free being. Remember, when you are decoupled from the facticity of your life, from tradition, from history, from even, gender and sexuality, from race, even. I mean, when you are disclosed from, when you are enclosed within those facticities, but now you have a space of freedom through interconnectedness. Now you have the transformation of the self in the digital age, in hyperculture. It is not merely the information that we can gather, the quote unquote price of tea in China I can look up, but it is rather the transformation of the self as our capacity to learn about the other is transformed. But this used to happen organically. Civilizations mingled in very diffuse and discrete and minor ways over a long period of time. But now we have an instantaneous mixing of cultures that literally explodes Dasein, explodes the self onto a greater whole. And only possibilities are there. This is the promise of liberal modernity, is that we are pure being of potentiality, not of history, not of the past, but only potentiality, only possibilities. That was the promise of the liberal world order. So then he says, so it defactizes, meaning it implodes the facticity of your life, your tradition, your religion, your race, your culture, so forth. Dasein is defactized into Homo Liber. Microsoft's famous slogan, "Where do you want to go today?" encodes the defactization of Dasein, which disinherits Dasein and makes it into a hypercultural tourist. Microsoft made us hypercultural tourists of the digital age. Mr. Smith, I'm only seeing you on Twitter. Where were you during BTR, my friend? My God. So remember, this is the Microsoft slogan. Where do you want to go today? Where do you want to go today? That defactizes Dasein, that throws Dasein into an infinite web of possibilities. So Dasein from its thrownness and thereby increases its freedom. Where do you want to go today? Remember, Microsoft did this. Windows turned us into a hypercultural tourist, what Byung-Chul is saying. Hypercultural tourist is another name for defactized Dasein. A Dasein without a past, a Dasein who is no longer thrown just into the world of facticity, but rather a Dasein decoupled from everything besides possibilities. That is it. But remember, Heidegger is terrified of this because Dasein needs the care and the thrownness that is only instantiated by Dasein's past, by historical being, by culture and tradition and so forth. Why do you think Dugan likes Heidegger? Why do you think that? Think about that for a moment. Hypercultural tourist is another name for defactized Dasein. Being a tourist does not necessarily mean being physically on the move, already at home. The hypercultural tourist is either somewhere else or on the go. Look where he says, he highlights it down there. Already on the go, in italics, already on the go. The hypercultural tourist is already a tourist when at home. Remember, you're being a tourist right now by listening to this live stream. Still here, he is already there. He never arrives at the final destination. The final destination is to become an e-celebrity such as myself. No, I'm kidding. The Heidegger, being in time, was already convinced that all interconnecting media level out differences and produces a dictatorship of the they. Remember, this is very important. So I will explain that, but we only have a few more paragraphs. As he puts in Being in Time, quote, this is from Heidegger, in utilizing public means of transport and making use of information services such as the newspaper. Imagine if Heidegger knew about the internet. Every other is like the next. This being with one another dissolves one's own Dasein completely into the kind of being of the others in such a way, indeed, that the others, as distinguishable and explicit, vanish more and more. You vanish into the other vanishes into you. The idea that media may bring about multiplication of forms of life and possibilities is alien to Heidegger. Because he feels uneasy about diversity, I mean, well, why do you think Heidegger would feel uneasy about diversity? I wonder what political party he was a part of. I wonder. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Faced with a colorful patchwork society, he would invoke the we of a community of fate. Heidegger's philosophy of dwelling and of the site is ultimately an attempt to refactize Dasein. Whoa. Whoa. Yes, exactly something. The final destination in Geo's secret Austrian painter club. Exactly. Let me explain to you what I just read. Let me explain it. So we have a few things here. On the one hand, we have the defactizing of Dasein. We have the hypercultural tourist is already on the move at home in the internet age, right? But look at this line here. It's very important you understand this. Where's the page here? The Heidegger being in time was already convinced of all interconnected media levels out differences and produces a dictatorship of the they. So to Heidegger, we have two opposing forces. We have the dictatorship of the they, the grand other, the mass, what Nietzsche would call the flies at the marketplace. And on the other hand, we have dwelling. All right? Let me unpack this. This is classic Heidegger here. The dictatorship of the they is what Heidegger would equate with inauthenticity, because you are literally being pulled by the crowd. You are no longer a being with a unique facticity of life, your culture, your people, your religion, your race, your own experiential being in the world. Rather, you are wholly a product of the they. What is the bug man? What is the NPC? What is all of these other memes, the Norwoods, whatever? They are a product of what Heidegger calls the they, what Nietzsche would call the flies at the marketplace, who experience an intense FOMO, feeling of missing out. They don't dwell. They only dwell in the crowd. But Heidegger would say that modern technology, as the final revealing of being, as a way of dissolving traditions and our sense of being in the world, that this sort of interconnectedness ushers in a dictatorship of the they. Now, you could write a paper about Foucault and Heidegger, because Foucault would say that power informs the subject, creates the subject, power knowledge. Power knowledge, in a sense, is like the they, right? So Heidegger is saying that even the newspaper decontextualizes your being, and it makes you a product of the they. Information technology is like wireheading. It literally is seeding your consciousness towards the grand other. That is what Heidegger means by the they. It is inauthenticity, but not in an anarchic sense, because Heidegger is not an anarchist. He's not like, well, you got to rebel against the crowd, man. Because Heidegger says that's also a LARP. That is also inauthenticity. But what does Heidegger mean by dwelling? So here he says at the very end, faced with a colorful patchwork society, faced with sort of multicultural, liberal 1990s Californian ideology, the Canada model, We Are the World, world music, stuff like that. The quote unquote Mosaic Society, faced with this colorful patchwork society, he would invoke the we as a community of fate. Heidegger's philosophy of dwelling and of the site ultimately is an attempt to refactize Dasein. Heidegger says that dwelling, the sort of cultural, religious, and even racial significance to a place of being, is a way of refactizing, bringing the subject, bringing Dasein back to its original position of having a contextual being, a facticity of being, of having those things like traditions and cultures and our own sense of self, away from the they, away from the digitalized, hyper-real, hypercultural mass of the world citizenry. Now it is the we, what Heidegger called the community of mortals, the creation of genuine community through dwelling, because dwelling is a revealing of being of one particular own instantiation of a culture and a civilization and a race. That is what Heidegger was saying. That is what dwelling is. So you know what a dwelling would be? Like a church. That would be like dwelling in a community. That's the best example. You know what is the they? The ultimate the they? What Mark Ogg called the non-place, the liminal space. Because the non-place is pure utility. It looks like everything else around the world. It is everywhere and it is nowhere at the same time. That is the non-place. The non-place is like a dentist lobby. The non-place is a bus terminal. The non-place is an airport, the global airport. People described Canada as the global airport. Now, here's the thing. Gyms are complicated, grilled sushi. Gyms are complicated because if you look at the biggest, what's the big one that has the lunk thing? Not Gold's Gym, the other gym. The gym that normies go to. What's that gym called? Chat. You know what gym I'm referring to? That is the lunk head thing. What is it called? And now this time makes more sense. Yes, you have to go. Planet Fitness. There you go. Gyms are complicated because, yes, gyms are liminal spaces, but if you go to a local gym that is run by a community of bros that you're friends with, the gym can become a space of dwelling. Notice how, like, gyms of great athletes or dojos, they become spaces of dwelling through the historical context, through the relational aspect of how your life intersects with that particular gym. But this cannot happen in Planet Fitness. Planet Fitness might as well be a liminal space. Planet Fitness is everywhere. Planet Fitness is the Walmart of gyms. Planet Fitness is literally global homogeneity. It is a non-place. It doesn't have dwelling. To Heidegger, it doesn't dwell. So what's interesting is that what Byung-Chul is saying is he's trying to take a Heideggerian approach to hyperculture. What does it mean to be a hypercultural tourist? To travel the web from the space of your own home. Remember the early internet, the Usenet days. You truly did feel like you were surfing the web. You truly felt like you were on a journey, that you were experiencing the other. But nowadays, now that we've been forced on the cattle ranch of homogeneous social media, and because we're geography locked, a lot of the times because of language and so forth, do we truly experience, do we have that same experience that we are traveling the world on the internet nowadays? Do we feel like we are hyper tourists? No, we're not. We don't. It's because we are all in the same apparatus of information. We all share the same memes. We all share the same news articles. We all have the same hot takes. We don't feel the difference of the Mosaic society that came out of the, post Cold War, post wall period. Planet Fitness deterritorialization. Deleuze wrote about this exactly. Oh boy. I'm really preaching, am I, folks? I'm really preaching it today. So let's go to the other. Oh boy, this is gonna. You're gonna like this one. You're gonna love this one. For all you health nuts, for all you right-wing bodybuilders, all you people that hate seed oils, you're gonna love this one. This is called Fusion Food. Fusion Food. It's a shorter chapter. Globalization is a complex process. It does not simply lead to the disappearance of diverse signs, ideas, images, spices, and smells. It is not that culture or nature. It is not that culture or nature produces either a unity or a bland, homogeneous mass. Rather, the creation of difference is in part of the economy of evolution, an economy that also applies to culture. Globalization proceeds dialectically. It allows dialectics to emerge. An idea of cultural pluralism and plurality that took its bearings from the protection of species and could only succeed by introducing artificial enclosures would be problematic. Such a curated or ethnographic plurality would be sterile. Hakan would disagree. Nemitz would disagree. We need nature preserves for all these indigenous species. We need nature preserves for all micro races. We need them. I agree with Hakan and Nemitz. I agree. I know I'm only sucking up to Nemitz now because he agreed to come on Content Minded. I know I'm terrible. I'm terrible. I was bashing the guy for months, and now that Nemitz owned me on Twitter, and I had to go to him, with my fez in my hand, I had to go to Nemitz and say, I'm very sorry. I sniped at you. I acted like an asshole. Please come on my podcast. And Nemitz said yes. Nemitz, he accepted my apology, and I kind of deserved it. I was sniping at him, I still don't agree with his takes, but we're going to get into his different takes on Content Minded coming in a few weeks when I schedule recording with him. The idea of cultural plurality took its bearings from the protection of species and could only succeed by introducing artificial enclosures. This plurality would be sterile. Having lively cultural exchange means that things spread, but also that certain forms of life disappear. Hyperculture is not an oversized monoculture. Through global interconnectedness and defactization, hyperculture provides a pool of different forms and practices of life that keep changing, expanding and renewing itself. Under hypercultural conditions, that is, in a dehistoricized form, past forms of life also enter into this pool. The spatial and temporal inclusiveness of hyperculture spells the end of history in the strongest sense. Catchphrases such as McDonald's culture, McWorld, Coca-Cola culture do not accurately reflect the actual cultural dynamic. Phenomena are projected onto McDonald's, which overdetermine the meaning of the name in several ways. This projection covers up what is actually happening. There are probably more Chinese restaurants in the world than there are branches of McDonald's. Parisians, so from Paris, probably eat more sushi than beef burgers. Modern Western cuisine is frequently influenced by Asian food. In Asia, McDonald's is no more than an occasional alternative to the native cuisine. And even McDonald's has to vary its menu in line with the eating habits of local cultures. The US is the source of not just McDonald's, but also of fusion food and fusion cuisine. An eclectic culinary approach that makes free use of all that hypercultural pool of spices, ingredients, and ways of preparing food has to offer. This hyper cuisine does not level the diversity of eating cultures. It does not just blindly throw everything into one pot. Rather, it thrives on the differences. This allows it to create a diversity that would not be possible on the basis of preserving the purity of local foods and cultures. Globalization and diversity are not mutually exclusive. In the Mcdonaldization of Society, George Ritzer turns McDonald's into the symbol of a rationalization of the world. Because remember, McDonald's worldwide can only happen because of a process of rationalization, of instrumental reason, as Adorno calls it. It may well be the imperative of rationalization, such as efficiency, calculatability, and predictability, dominate many areas of life around the globe. But they will not be able to rationalize the global diversity of tastes, even of spices and smells, out of existence. Globalization is not the same thing as rationalization. Out of the fear of diversity, Plato already condemned the use of spices in the manifold dishes of Sicilian cuisine. Well, I didn't know that about Plato. Holy crap. But culture does not follow logos. It is more unpredictable and less logical than one might think. The pressures of unity and identity are not the driving forces of globalization. Hyperculturality has a diversifying effect. Hyperculturality. The phenomenon of hypercuisine cannot be countered by gastronomic relocalization. The hypermarket of tastes de-sites the local. This is what the local looks like in hypercultural form. In short, a non-traditionalist renaissance of the local occurs. To put it in a Bavarian and ironic term, if it is do or die for the veal sausage, then the answer is the Hawaiian toast with veal sausage. At least as far as food is concerned, there will be no cultural homogenization. The creation of differences is part of how the sense of taste and even enjoyment works. The emergence of a bland cultural homogeneity would put an end to enjoyment. The leveling of differences would also make sense in terms of the economy of consumption. The hypermarket of taste lives off of difference and diversity. Hyperculturality, however, is more than a side-by-side of different spices and smells. It defactizes its taste itself, opens it up to the new. Fusion food makes you think of design rather than of being. One might even say that hyperculture defactizes being into design more than ever. Life is a projection. So now life becomes a design project. Life is no longer a being in the world. Rather, life is a projection of a particular design in a fusion of things. More than ever, life is projection. Design strips being of its thrownness. Heidegger constantly tries to refactize the world, including its smells, in a struggle against the world's hyperculturality. In the pathway, he characteristically invokes the scent of the oak wood in the German forest. So notice this thing. Design strips being of its thrownness. You are no longer thrown into the context of the world. Rather, being is designed through the possibilities of hyperculture. So here's the thing. I don't exactly agree with this passage. When did Byung-Chul, when did he write this? He wrote this in 2005. He wrote this right at the height of this flowery vision of globalization. He wrote this in 2005. I disagree because I think that homogenization won out. But here's the thing. Byung-Chul Han is trying to recapture the beauty and the promises of globalization. He is trying to recapture hyperculturality as a driving force, true diversity, true fusion. but I disagree with him. I think that homogeneity and the blandness of life, of cuisine, that has won out. It only took a few decades, but it won. So I remember back in his One Health episode of Caribbean Rhythms. I mean, his recent takes about like marriage and reproduction, how moralization never works. I disagree with him there, but he had this point in a few episodes back where he talks about how like what does he say? The various food slop from out the world, from the global south, the third world slop, that they're going to feed it to you as like this exciting thing. Now, I think that for a limited space of time, there was a space for true diversity of a fusion of cultures. This what Byung-Chul calls the spices and the smells of life. But I think that possibility has enclosed on itself. So Nemesis, my good friend Nemesis, the 2000s was a particular time, total hyper-real bliss. Can't fault people for getting it wrong. Now, I think Byung-Chul Han has gotten it right more than wrong, but I disagree with this culinary take. I think that the global blandness has won out. So here he says in Fusion Food, I think I'm going to read maybe a few more essays, but he says, heterogeneity in itself gives a spirit to the power of realizing itself as spirit. So Byung-Chul Han thinks that the decontextualizing, the defactizing of life is a good thing because it opens up possibilities, right? But now, if you look at the current works of Byung-Chul Han, he's starting to change his tune. He's changing his tune. He's saying that maybe it didn't work out. Now, I can read what's it called? Digital Prognosis or something. I have some of his more recent works as well. The Burnout Society. Oh, Pillator. The Burnout Society. I have it right here. Maybe I will. This comes from what year was this published? 2015. 2015. So I will read something from the Burnout Society maybe in the future. But here, if you read the Burnout Society, he's much more pessimistic about the project of globalization than. So Pill Eater says this is his most important book. Oh, by the way, yes, Pill Eater, I want you on Content Minded as well. So that'll set a few cats among the pigeons. I haven't read Psychopolitics, but is it self-inclusion draws pretty nihilistic? Yes, in some ways, yes. But I think if you look at the very end of Psychopolitics, he talks about the idiot. He talks about like the holy fool. He gives you some potential out to like psychopolitics. He's trying to formulate a way of being outside of psychopolitics. So here we go. Let's see what's a good short one. Fusion Food on Lasting Peace. Do you want to read on Lasting Peace? Culture of Friendliness. Hyperlog. Hyperlog. Let me read you Hyperlog. In a way, the World Wide Web has transformed the world into a seascape. Whoa. 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 What did Zero HP Lovecraft say in the gig economy? People think that the internet is like a web. Rather, it is like an ocean. I wonder if my good friend ZHP, if he read Hyperculture, I wonder. So here he says, the World Wide Web has transformed the world into a seascape. When you clicked on the old Netscape navigator, an image of a starlet. So again, Byung-Chul Han is dating himself. The Netscape navigator. Do you Zoomers even know what Netscape is? I feel like an old man. Actually, me and ZHP, now that you think of it, Cyber Ninja Zero, we have a thing that we're gonna do in the future, hopefully the near future. We have a little skit It's going to be called Follow the Rules. It's going to be amazing. Me and ZHP have a skit that we're going to do to promo a stream that we're going to do in the future. So, you know what? I'm going to make internet friend a moderator really quickly. Make him a mod. Add moderator. There we go. The hyperlog. So this is called the what am I doing here? Hyperlog. I barely even remember Netscape. Yeah, because you're a Zoomer, internet friend. You're a Zoomer. Get out of here, you filthy Zoomer. In a way, the World Wide Web has transformed the world into a seascape. When you clicked on the old Netscape navigator, an image of a starlit sea and a lighthouse appeared. You navigate across the endless sea of information. Listen, I'm sorry, conjecture. We love our Zoomers, don't we, folks? We love our Zoomers, don't we, folks? We love our Zoomers. I know some Zoomers that are great. I have the best Zoomers. Every GeoCell is the best. GeoCell Army has some of the best Zoomers. Anyways, by the way, let me take a break. The hyperlog, like the hyper A log. Let me take your shilling break. Patreon.com/Giant Productions. Go to my Telegram. Go to my Twitter. Go to my Patreon. A lot of exciting content this week. I'm totally busy. Tomorrow will be the first episode on YouTube. There will also be a bonus episode of Monday Modern Art Madness. I'm going to be recording the audio right after this stream. Monday Modern Art Madness. It's going to be a George Gross painting. It's going to be about living in a society. You know, what do you get when you cross a neuroatypical? Never mind. What do you get when you cross a NEET with an obesity problem and a fez living in a society that treats him like trash? I'll tell you what you get. You get what you fucking deserve. You get good content. That's what you deserve. You deserve good content. Patreon.com/Giant Productions. Anyways. Woo! Oh boy. I could have done that and follow the rules. Anyways. The sea, however, does not appear as threatening as it did in earlier times. Whoa. For Hegel, the sea was still a symbol of frightening uncertainty and unfathomable depth. In the inaugural lecture at the University of Berlin, he compares thinking to an adventurous maritime journey on a boundless ocean. Quote, this is from Hegel. With the decision to philosophize, mind throws itself into thinking. Thinking is alone with itself. It throws itself as if into an endless ocean. All bright colors, all full footholds have disappeared. All other friendly lights are extinguished. Only that one star, mind's inner star, shines in the North Sea, on the northern star. It is natural that mind, being alone with itself, is seized by horror, so to speak. You do not know where you You do not know where to it will go and where you will end up. That is what Hegel says. With the mind and with thinking into the vastness of absolute spirit, there is a horror. There is a danger. There is a supreme cosmic horror. Hegel's system is based on the feeling of horror. After all, it is erected in the middle of an endless ocean, Kubla Khan's pleasure dome. Xanadu does not rest on solid ground either. The earth is seething. The earth is seething. Maybe sneezing. The earth is sneezing. And the sacred river Alf tumbles down on a sunless sea. The World Wide Web presents an altogether different kind of sea. One neither of uncertainty nor of unfathomable depth. So the World Wide Web is like a inch deep, long, endless ocean. The World Wide Web is no longer the sea of horrors. That is an amazing observation. Because if the internet is an ocean and we are cut off from the depths, there is no longer any mystery. Because the internet is the final revealing of the world. The internet is the hyper revealing of the world, the likes of which that Heidegger only could have envisioned in his nightmares. No wonder he supported the Austrian painter. Anyways, that's not going to get into that one. That's kind of, that's total edgelord stuff. Anyways, in the World Wide Web, the user is a tourist who moves about by way of hyperlinks. Surfing reflects the feeling of life that has long been familiar to us from the world outside of the computer. The World Wide Web becomes experiential. From the earliest ages, we know what it's like to surf the web. Our whole being is consumed by it. It is familiar to us. Imagine that. Imagine an ocean and all of its vastness, of all of its horrors, of all of its wonders. Now it becomes familiar. The digital ocean of the internet is like a total revealing of mystery to us. Ralph, Gio, do you like riffraff? What do you mean by riffraff? What is riffraff? Like, you mean the common mass of people, or do you mean something else? Is that a band or anyways? The user travels the World Wide Web, the worldwide market, that is the hypermarket of information. The sea with its innumerable container ships is no longer the sea of Homer or Hegel. The concept of browsing draws our attention to a different form of being in the world. Unlike surfing, browsing is not a maritime image. So now we no longer have the early internet where it was this open sea, this frontier of surfing the web. Now we browse the web, browsing already existing content that we know about. Browsing, the user does not have the attitude of the adventurous seafarer, but that of the consumer, even the modern tourist. Web 2.0 turned you from a seafarer, a sojourner, into a consumer, into a tourist. There's nothing worse than being a modern tourist. You know, you're familiar with the place, you go back to it, you're a snowbird, as we call them here in Canada. You no longer are this great seafarer on the internet. You're no longer like those autists in Silicon Valley that cared about the internet back in the day, in the Usenet days. You have been cucked by mass market digital reproduction. I hate to say it, I'm sorry. Even watching this stream, you're a tourist. I'm very sorry. So when the tree is transformed into hypermarket, the inner state of mind, which Hegel believed would help him master an unfathomable depth and uncertainty of an endless ocean plates. This changing attitude towards the sea reflects today's altered understanding of being. The sea is transformed into hypermarket. The new sea knows neither the mind nor logos in the strictest sense. Logos gives us way to hyperlog. But this hyperlog in the sense continues the simple connotation of the dialogue or the polylog. Rather, it is altogether leaves behind the order of the old logos. to which both dialogue and polylog are still attached. The hyperlog is the new order of hyperculture, which resounds in the term, however, is less the logos than the log in the logos, logoses. So instead of the divine logos, instead of the word, instead of the intellect projecting into the future, now you have log in. Your consciousness is seeded to the new digital sea. It no longer is like what Hegel thinks when it comes to seafaring, where you are using your mind, you're using your capacity for intellect, for rationality to project into the future, to project in the ocean, rather. Now this new digital this new digital ocean is bereft of logos. You merely are a passive consumer. The modern Web 2.0 internet has turned you into a PMC. Turned you into an NPC, turned you into a passive hypermarket consumer. You are no longer this explorer. You are a tourist. So that is powerful. I think there are other essays, but I'm getting on to 1 hour here, and my mouth is pretty parched. I should have brought some more water. Oh boy. But yeah, so I have a lot of work to do. This kills the CCRU. Nemesis is right. That's amazing. It kills the CCRU. Maybe I'll read you one more. I'll read you one more. You can find you a short one. Pilgrims and Tourists, the age of let me read you the age of comparison. There you go. That's a good one. Here we go. The age of comparison. Nietzsche was certain of one. Nietzsche was certain one of the few thinkers capable of looking. Nietzsche was certainly one of the few thinkers capable of looking far ahead, of resonating with vibrations that came from the future. Apparently, he recognized the death of God also presaged the end of the sight as something of a particular significance. That God was also the God of sights. The de-sighting of culture creates a side-by-side of difference in forms of knowledge, thinking, living, and believing. So, with the death of God to Nietzsche, we also have the death of dwelling. We have the death of the sight. We no longer have the monumental latching of being to the context of life through the sort of Christendom and religiosity of the West. As Christianity recedes in the West, you have the receding of what Heidegger calls dwelling, the sight. No longer is the places of the world unique, contextual sites of meaning transference. Now you have the age of the non-place. That is what Nietzsche preempts this as well. Age of comparison. The less men are bound by tradition, the greater. So this is what Nietzsche, I think this is a Nietzsche quote. Age of comparison. The less men are bound by tradition, the greater is the fermentation of motivations within them. The greater, in consequence, their outward restlessness, their mingling together with one another, the polyphony of this endeavor. Who is there who now still feels a strong compulsion to attach himself and his posterity to a particular place? So all of this, like, we are the world, I'm a world citizen, I'm traveling, that can only happen with the destruction of tradition, as Nietzsche says. Who is there who still feels very strong attachment at all? Just as in the arts and all the genres are imitated side by side, so all of the stages and genres of morality, custom, and culture Such an age acquired in significance through the fact that it is various different philosophies of life, customs, cultures can be compared and experienced side by side. Cultures can be compared and experienced side by side, which is in earlier ages when, just as all artistic genres were attached to a particular place in time, so every culture still enjoys only a localized dominion was not possible. Nietzsche had in mind the philosophy of comparison, even a comparative philosophy. I imagine future thinkers in which the European American restlessness is united with a hundredfold inherited Asian tranquility. Pill Eater, did Nietzsche predict Asian Aryanism? The fusion of American European restlessness is united with a hundredfold inherited Asian tranquility? Such as a combination will solve the riddle of the world. Meanwhile, the contemplative free spirit has their mission. The contemplative free spirit have their mission. They lift all the barriers that stand in the way of the merging of people, religion, state, monarchical institutions, illusions of wealth and poverty, prejudices concerning health and race. So again, I think if that is a true translation as a side issue, I think that would be sort of a problematic. It would be a problematic quote for people that take up a right-wing interpretation of Nietzsche. But the easy thing is that you could say that Nietzsche is not saying that it's a good thing necessarily that the free spirit, quote unquote, they lift all the barriers that stand in the way of the merging of peoples, religion, state, monarchical instincts, illusions of wealth and poverty, prejudices concerning health. So yeah, that's a problematic, I think, passage in Nietzsche. But like Nietzsche, there's statements that contradict that as well. There's a lot of statements that support the opposite, that the destruction of these institutions are a bad thing. But I would say that the right-wing Nietzscheans would have to contend with passages like that in Nietzsche. So Byung-Chul says, the age of the sight becomes unbound and turned into the age of comparison. So no longer is there a localization of cultural entities, of actual sites of meaning. Now we compare everything to one another. We live in the age of perennialism, the age of comparison, the age of what do they call it? Eclecticism, where everything is now open to be compared side by side. And now we have especially in philosophy and the studying of religion, we have this sort of syndrome of this is compared to that. This is like that. We cannot differentiate. We live in a comparative culture. This is what Byung-Chul is saying. Hell is the other person. Underrated culture. Yeah, that's true. I agree, Nemesis. That's the Sartre quote. This age is now approaching, however, rises above both the culture and the sight and the culture of comparison. Now, so Nietzsche says, now an enhanced aesthetic sensibility will come to a definite decision between all of these forms offering themselves to comparison. Most of them, namely all those that rejected by the sensibility, it will allow to die out. There is likewise now taking place a selecting out among the forms and customs of higher morality whose objective can only be the elimination of lower moralities. This is the age of comparison. This is what Nietzsche says. Let us rather confront the task with the age set us by as boldly as we can, and then posterity will bless us from it, a posterity that will know itself to be as much beyond the self-enclosed original national cultures as it is beyond the culture of comparison, but will look back upon both species of culture as upon variable antiquities. So higher cultures are now in comparison to others. We will see this grand, cultural eugenic program where the weak cultures die off, the strong cultures ascend, so forth. So this is Byung-Chul. Byung-Chul Han, thus the age of comparison is more than just a by side of different cultural forms. It is an age of selection that takes its bearing from a hierarchy of values. Lower moralities are supposed to die out in favor of higher morality. The only decisive criterion is aesthetic sensibility. The problem, however, is how the distinction between lower and higher forms should be drawn. For instance, with regard to artistic genres, Nietzsche's aestheticism tends towards a re-theologization of culture. So Nietzsche gets rid of religion, gets rid of the death of God, but now culture becomes its own form of the theologization of the aesthetic. Now the aesthetic image reaches a earthly, secularized divinity in a way. Will the age of globalization really have been an age of comparison that disappears to be replaced by an age characterized by stronger, higher forms? By an age characterized by stronger, higher forms, or will it remain an age of plurality that continues to practice as well as an age that is now dominated by the economy of selection? Sorry, an age that is not dominated by the economy of selection, but by the logic of and. The logic of the and. So the West and this, the West and that, this culture and that culture. Will the higher morality of the future, assuming it comes to exist, not precisely rest on the friendliness of the and? That is amazing. That is Byung-Chul Han using Nietzsche on the cusp of the 19th century. Sorry, on the cusp of the 20th century. He's saying that now that we have the ability to compare cultures, now that we have the ability to sort of delocalize cultures, religions, art, expression, that there will be this grand Darwinian eugenics of culture and aesthetics. That there will be a selective process. That they will win out. Stronger moralities will win out and weaker moralities will fall by the wayside. But Byung-Chul Han is saying, don't think so fast, Nietzsche. What if instead of this selection of cultures throughout the globe that fuse together, that are stronger, that's the positive vision. That's the right-wing vision of multiculturalism. That is the Nietzschean vision of multiculturalism and the global mosaic society. What if instead Byung-Chul Han says that no? What if it's the and? What if it's just blind comparison, a homogeneous mess, no hierarchy, no structure, the and? Christianity and Asian fusionism. McDonald's and, bushmeat in Nairobi or whatever. This is the problem. This is what Nietzsche did not see. Nietzsche did not see. Anyways, I've been going for an hour and a half. I have a lot of work to do. So final announcements. I will take some questions. It's just that my mouth is going dry. I should have had 2 water bottles actually. So I'm going to take Q&A now. But final announcement. So tomorrow I'm recording an episode of Unregistered with Thaddeus Russell. I'm going to be talking about Foucault. I don't know when it's going to come out. I don't think it's a live stream. I think it's an actual recording. So I'm going to have that. Content-minded. But Monday I'm going to upload the first installment of Monday Modern Art Madness on YouTube. For people who don't know, Modern Art Madness was a series I used to do in the WordPress days. I just called it Modern Art Madness because I I was terrible with scheduling. I used to miss Mondays all the time, right? But I'm gonna try to release it every Monday. He wants a water bottle and another water bottle. Yeah, I know. So Monday, Modern Art Madness. It's going to be a George Gross painting. I'm also going to be I'm going to release an extra one on Patreon. So go to Patreon, patreon.com/. Oh no, mods, get rid of this guy. No girls now. I'm a total no, I'm kidding. It's not a no girls zone. What am I put user in timeout? What am I doing? There you go. But internet friend, thank you, internet friend. I put the guy in timeout. I don't know, spam bots, spam bops. Anyways, I hear streams hurt your channel growth because of the YouTube algorithm. Some make a separate channel for those. Is that true, actually? Are you going to talk about totalitarianism? Yes, I'm going to edit that video. I may talk about it in the next week, but hopefully next week, next Saturday, I'm going to finally do the Californian ideology essay. So anyways, I'm recording on Monday with Thaddeus Russell, but I'm going to be releasing Modern Art Madness both on YouTube here and on Patreon. The first installment is going to be 2 George Gross paintings, one on YouTube, one on Patreon. I'm going to move this week on Thursday. This Thursday will be content-minded because on Wednesday, I'm going to be on the Academic Agent cigar stream. So watch out for that. I'm going to be on the cigar stream. It's going to be Wednesday. And I'm going to make a promo video for Content Minded because it's going to be an Odyssey exclusive. It's with a Russian insider in the Russian media. And I can't release it on YouTube because it's too hot. I'm so worried about the Jannies on YouTube. So I'm going to be on the cigar stream on Wednesday. Content Minded is going to be moved only this week to Thursday. I've also heard reports that, well, let's just say that Follow the Rules, they're streaming on Wednesday for a reason, in my opinion. I think that the whole Milady Maker episode on Wednesday, I wonder, there's something curious about that. Why Follow the Rules would stream on Wednesday when, Content Minded's on every Wednesday, right? So, you know what's funny? Is that I actually did Content Minded as a way of not dicking over. The reason I released it on Wednesday is a way of not dicking over Follow the Rules. So I think I'm going to have to reconsider that, actually. I'm going to have to reconsider that. But anyways, it's going to be on Thursday. It's going to be on Odyssey, but I will make a promo video. And I cannot release this on YouTube because it's, I'm very worried about the Jannies. We're going to talk about the conflict in the blue and yellow country. We're going to talk about the way people see it in Russia. We're going to talk about various issues of, what else do we talk about? Me and Alex. We talk about a bunch of things about Eurasianism and so forth. So the whole thing's going to be on Patreon, but I'm going to release the first hour and a half on, not YouTube, Odyssey. But that zine artist on your Instagram has cool work. Yes, I'm gonna have Stain Haynes. By the way, I don't know if I could show this. Stain Haynes gave me a package with his designs, his sticker packs. He also gave me 2 issues of Women in Cars magazine. Go and support Stain. Oh, I can't show that on YouTube. Go and support Stain Haynes, 718 TV on YouTube and Instagram. I believe you can find Stain Haynes on Twitter. Go and find him. He keeps getting nuked on Twitter. He sent me such great stuff. Let me show you the stuff he sent me. It's right here, actually. Oh, boy. He sent me a t-shirt. I'm going to have to wear the t-shirt. I posted videos. So he sent me a bunch of his sticker designs. This one, it says, you miss 100% of the shots you never take. There's an unboxing stream right now. Oh, look at this one. Death to America with Z-Ping and Joe Biden. Death to America. This is another one. This is one of his own designs. 718 TV. Where is it? Where is the? Oh, here we go. Here we go. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this one. Respect the troops, Chris Doyle. Respect the troops. Stain Haynes, 718 TV. Respect the troops. Troop respecting. Put an 07 in the chat for Stain Haynes, people. Put an 07 in the chat. Here we have another good design from Stain Haynes. I like that one. That one is, yeah, that's like a gargoyle. Look at this one. This one. Look at this one. Riding with despair prohibited. Keep hopes up. 718 TV. Riding with despair prohibited, ladies and gentlemen. Keep your hopes up. Despair is a sin. What else did we get? Oh, look, he has one with a tiger mask. Have you seen him? Thanks for looking. I believe that's his co-host. Oh, what's his co-host name? Minoxus. Minoxus, yeah. I believe that's his co-host, Minoxus. Queenstrash.com. That is another website he runs, queenstrash.com. So go there if you want to purchase Cars and Women magazine. What else? I have a bunch of other things. Yeah, I think that's most of it. Oh, yeah, this is the last one. 718 TV, ladies and gentlemen. He's also a sticker tagger. He puts this all up New York. He's a prolific sticker tagger. But he gave me so much different stuff. He gave me a letter. Where's the pin he gave me? Where's the pin? Here it is. Oh, I'm getting it. It's covered up. Here it is. He gave me a pin of Saint Gennaro. I don't know if you could see it. Saint Gennaro. There you go. It's funny because my middle name is also Gennaro, and my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, was also named Gennaro. And apparently, he said the only shrine for Saint Gennaro is in Manhattan in New York. So that's where he got it from. He also sent me some great letters. So Stain Haynes will be on Content Minded. Oh yes, yeah. Here's another one. Here's a good one. It's okay to here you go, you weebs. It's okay to be infected. It's okay to be infected. Look at that. Look, someone share the screenshot. Someone share the screenshot right now. It's okay to be infected. There you go. It's okay to be infected. We love our weebs, ladies and gentlemen. We love our weebs. What else do you send me? Oh yeah. This is my favorite one. Good times ahead. This is Stain Haynes himself. Good times ahead. It's happening right now and nobody cares. There should be a series where Stain Haynes just goes around and is a news presenter. He goes around New York, in those scummy, dilapidated areas of New York. He just goes around as a news presenter. Look at that. Good times are ahead. It's already happening, but nobody cares. I love that one. So here's another one. I don't know if I can mention this on YouTube. Look at this. This is a tweet he made in 2020. Look at this tweet. Look at this tweet. Screen cap this. Worldwide lockdown, 10 to 15 days. Major supply stream disruption. Recovery in 3 to 4 years. This was posted January 29th, 2020. He posted this tweet. Look at that. Amazing. God bless to my boy Stain Haynes. Go support 718 TV. Go and buy. Where is it? I have to find it. There's a tasteful one. Go and buy Cars and Women magazine. I'm going to be having a little short essay in the 6th edition of Cars and Women magazine. I will post the link when it's up. And also another content shout out. Go to Terror House Press and buy Ending Bigley A. The second book by Bill Marchant. in the Ending Bigly series. It's about the many fates of Justin Trudeau. I have a 30-page essay about the Canada model and about the convoys in Ending Bigly A. It's on Amazon, but go to terrorhousepress.com. I have an exclusive, you can only read it in that book, 30-page essay on the Canada model and the truckers. It's called The Canada Model Ends in Honking. Only at Terror House, only in Ending Bigly A. Go, you know what? I'm going to go drop the link in the chat, actually. Let me go and find it. Just give me a second, folks. Ending Bigly A. Number 1 bestseller. This is the Amazon link. Of course, I'm in Canada, so go and buy it. Ending Bigly A. Here is in the chat. Please go and support Terror House. Go and support Bill Marchand. I interviewed Matt Forney of Terror House. We talk about art. We talk about literature. We talk about his career on the internet. That's coming on a few weeks. So this week it's with a Russian insider. We talk about the current conflict. And next week on Content Monday, not the week coming up, but the week in June, the first week of June, he told me he made a video. Nuke Telly is coming on Content Minded. Nuke Telly talks about his career, talks about the art of the dissident right, and he spills the hot goss about America First. So you're going to love that one. Nuke Telly told me he made a package video, promo video for it. But this week, it's going to be an Odyssey exclusive, Content Minded. It's going to be on Thursday, but it's still going to be on Wednesday. Every Wednesday is Content Minded, but it's going to be on Thursday. Patreon.com to look at the whole thing, not just the first hour and a half. I recorded 3 hours with Nuke Telly. The more spicier half is going to be on Patreon. But that episode's going to require a lot of editing. So tune in tomorrow, Monday, Modern Art Madness. This Thursday, it's going to be on Odyssey, but I'm going to make a promo video for my interview with a Russian insider. It's going to be amazing. You're going to love it. Wednesday's the cigar stream. I'm recording with Thaddeus Russell. Onward and upwards. Love you all. God bless. Patreon.com. Follow my Telegram. Follow my Twitter. I'm going to get back into the artwork and posting art. And I'm going to start creating, I'm going to create an Anchor FM for the podcast for Style Talk as well. So people have requested a means of downloading them. I'm going to create this week an Anchor FM. Hopefully by the end of the week, I'm going to put everything on there. It's going to be amazing. God bless you all. Goodbye. My voice is absolutely shot. I mean, thank God Monday Modern Art Madness is like a kind of like an ASMR thing, an asthma thing. So God bless you all. Goodbye. Sweet. See you Wednesday. Cigar stream. Me, Academic Agent, Charlemagne, and me. Goodbye. God bless. Mwah. Too sweet. Follow 718 TV. Go and buy Ending Bigly.